I stood silently at the edge of the room, my gaze fixed on them. She was so close to him, and the energy between them hummed in the air like an invisible current, pulling at something deep within me. The way she stood there, steady and unwavering, her presence an anchor for him, was undeniable. I could see the uncertainty in his eyes when they briefly met mine, the flicker of doubt, the fleeting moment of hesitation. But she never wavered. Her focus was entirely on him, guiding him with a quiet, unspoken confidence that radiated from her every move. I felt an undeniable pull, a magnetic force urging me to step forward, to cross that invisible line and become part of the story unfolding before me. For so long I had been nothing more than a passive observer, standing at the edges of their world, watching from a distance. But now something was different. The realization hit me like a wave crashing on the shore. I was no longer content to remain a spectator. It wasn't enough to watch anymore. I was ready to be more, to be part of it. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Each of your shares is not only a motivation for us but also contributes to spreading value to the community. If you find this content useful, don't forget to watch the whole video, like, subscribe, and share with someone you think needs to hear this too. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts as I stepped closer, closing the distance between us just a little. My voice was steady, though my mind was racing. "How long have you been doing this?" I asked, the question hanging in the air. She didn't flinch, not even a twitch. Her gaze stayed fixed on him, unwavering, as though my words were a mere ripple on the surface of something much deeper. 6 years, maybe 7. I studied her intently, trying to decipher the subtle layers beneath the calm, almost serene exterior she wore so effortlessly. She sat with her legs crossed, her posture relaxed yet commanding, hands resting gracefully in her lap. So natural, so composed. There were no signs of discomfort, no nervous shifts or distractions. She was completely at ease, confident in her own skin, her presence in the room unwavering. It was as if she existed on a different level, one where the world around her slowed down just enough for her to command it with quiet control. There was no performance here, no pretense, just an undeniable poise that intrigued me. I took a moment to let my mind catch up, studying her every move, wondering what lay hidden behind that calm surface. Then I spoke, testing the waters. "And you don't mind being watched?" My voice was steady, but my curiosity was unmistakable. Her gaze never faltered, a steady, unwavering force that seemed to cut through the air between us. She met my eyes, no hesitation, no retreat. "Not at all," she replied, her voice low, almost velvety. "I like when someone's paying attention." There was something about her tone, the way she said it, that made the words linger in the space between us longer than they should have, carrying an unspoken heat, a weight I wasn't entirely prepared for. I let the moment stretch, just enough to let that unspoken energy build, and then I pushed further. "You ever work with couples?" The question was simple enough, but I could feel the undercurrent of something more, something unvoiced, swimming beneath it. Her eyes never wavered, even as the air shifted between us. "Plenty," she said, her voice smooth and sure, though there was something almost playful in her tone. "But it always depends on who's really in charge." The words hung in the air, and I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow, intrigued by the suggestion. "And who do you think that is?" I asked, leaning forward just a fraction, a challenge in my voice. Without missing a beat, she answered, her gaze still locked on mine, unwavering. "You," she said, her voice confident and decisive. "Definitely you." A slow, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corners of my lips. It wasn't a broad smile, nothing exaggerated, but enough to convey the quiet satisfaction of hearing her acknowledge something I had known all along. I shifted in my seat, just slightly, as the weight of her words settled around us. As I uncrossed my legs, the hem of my dress shifted upward, revealing just a little more of my skin. Whether it was intentional or not, I wasn't entirely sure anymore. But I could feel her eyes on me, following the movement, and I knew she had noticed. She didn't comment, didn't react outwardly, but the silence between us thickened. She just waited, patient, composed. "And if I only want to watch?" I asked, my voice quieter now, tinged with something that felt like a test, a provocation. I needed to know where the boundaries truly lay. Her response came without hesitation, smooth and measured. Then I'll make sure you don't miss anything. Her words landed deeper than I expected, a sharpness in them that sent a ripple through me. I drew in a breath, trying to steady myself, and stood up slowly, deliberately, as if every movement mattered. My heels made soft contact with the hardwood floor as I crossed the room, the sound almost drowned out by the quiet tension that still lingered in the air. I reached for my bag, fingers brushing against the leather, and pulled out the envelope we had discussed earlier. I turned to face her, holding it out between us, my eyes meeting hers once more. She didn't say anything at first, just took the envelope from my hands with one smooth motion, her fingers grazing mine as she did. Her eyes never left mine, her expression unreadable, but there was something in the way she held my gaze that made the moment feel more significant than it had any right to be. "I'll text you when to arrive," I said, my voice steady, even as my pulse quickened. She gave a small nod, her lips curling into the faintest of smiles. "Looking forward to it." She left shortly after, without a word of goodbye, without any rush or urgency. There was a fluidity to her movements, an ease that seemed to make time slow down around her. As she reached the door, she glanced over her shoulder, her eyes lingering on me longer than necessary, as if she were imprinting the moment in her mind. And then, without another word, she was gone, leaving the room quieter, but somehow heavier. The weight of her presence remained long after she left, and I found myself unable to shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much, much more complicated. That night, I was in bed with my husband. His body moved against mine, steady, familiar, locked in rhythm. His hands found my hips, grounding me, while my legs wrapped tighter around him, holding him close. I guided him with every breath, every slow grind of my body beneath his. My back lifted instinctively, chasing the build he worked so hard to give. His lips brushed my throat. I moaned softly, one hand buried in his hair, the other flat against his chest, feeling the strength behind each motion. He was trying, giving everything, and I gave just as much. I gasped when the tension broke. Tight, overwhelming, sudden. He followed with a soft groan, sinking into the sheets beside me. Heat still radiating between us, we lay still, lungs catching up, the air thick and quiet. "That was wow," he said finally. "Yeah," I murmured. "It was amazing." He turned his head, still breathless. "Was that my early birthday gift?" I kissed his shoulder. "No. I've arranged something even more special for tomorrow." The next evening arrived in a blink. Golden light stretched across the hardwood floors, warm and low. She was already there, seated on the edge of the couch, ankles crossed, calm as ever. Her presence filled the room without trying. She glanced toward the front door. "Where is he?" "Still at work," I said. "Should be home any minute." She tilted her head slightly. "Did you tell him?" Shook mine. "Not yet. He's been guessing all day." That drew a quiet smile from her, measured and knowing. She leaned back, arms resting loosely across the cushions, like she'd done this 100 times. "You really think he'll go for it?" "I don't think," I said. "I know." The space between us settled into a low hum. Not nervous, just waiting. She didn't ask more, just watched the light crawl slowly across the floor, then the sound of keys. The door swung open. He stepped inside, bag slung over his shoulder, tie loosened, jacket gone. His eyes found her instantly. He stopped, silence. His gaze flicked to me, then back to her. "Is this?" He nodded. "She's your surprise." He blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely." The woman stood, smooth, confident. She crossed the room and stopped in front of him, her movements calm but focused. He looked at me again. I nodded once more. "It's okay," I said. "She's here for you." Her hand rose, brushing his cheek with quiet confidence. Then, without a word, she leaned in and kissed him. It was slow, simple, intentional. When they parted, he stood frozen, still processing, still breathing her in. I stepped forward and gently took his hand as I led them both toward the bedroom. I leaned in and whispered, "This is your gift, Oz. Enjoy." The bedroom felt warmer than usual. I settled onto the couch across from the bed, my posture composed, legs folded neatly, every sense tuned to what was about to unfold. I hadn't said much since we stepped in, just enough to guide them inside, to remind him this was still his moment, and mine too in a different way. She stood close to him now, barely an inch of space remaining. Her hands moved to the front of his pants, calm and confident, every movement sure. There was no fumbling, no hesitation, just steady control. Her eyes lifted briefly to his, not asking, just anchoring him. He looked at me, a pause lingered. No words, but I saw the silent question in his expression. His last check for reassurance. I nodded once, measured, certain. That was all he needed. She guided him to sit at the edge of the bed, then lowered herself with practiced ease. Her palm slid along his thighs as she leaned in. He let out a shaky breath, gripping the blanket as his head tilted back, and his eyes drifted closed. Whatever doubt he'd held dissolved. Her movements were intentional, unfaltering. She adjusted with him, responding to every shift in his breath, every subtle cue. A rhythm began to take shape, grounded and focused, holding him in place. I watched my own breath catching. I shifted, adjusting my position. A soft pressure began building inside me. Gradual, insistent. My hand rested on my thigh beneath the fabric of my dress. I didn't move it. I simply let it settle there, steadying myself against the rising tension. After a moment she rose. Her hand slid upward along his torso as she stood, then moved to the buttons of his shirt. She opened each one slowly, with the ease of someone familiar with every step. Piece by piece, his clothing fell away until his chest rose and fell freely under the room's warm light. Then it was her turn. She undressed with graceful efficiency. Nothing flashy, just quiet command in every movement. Each layer came away smoothly until nothing remained between them. She gently pressed him back onto the bed and climbed over him with certainty. He didn't resist. She adjusted her stance, settling into a pace that matched the rise and fall of his breath. Every shift was deliberate, designed to connect, not dominate. She stayed focused, her attention fully on him. His hands rested at her waist. His head leaned back. His breathing grew deeper, his body sinking with hers, moment by moment. Sound left me soft, involuntary. My hand now rested just beneath my dress, unmoving but present. I wasn't detached. I felt everything, the build inside me, the heat under my skin, the need that stirred with every glance and reaction. Watching wasn't enough anymore. The pull was growing. I pressed my knees closer together, my breathing shortened. She leaned forward, bracing herself against his chest. A deep sound came from him, low and full. That was it. I rose from the couch, slow and purposeful. My legs were a little unsteady, not from nerves, but from how long I'd held myself in place. I took a step, then another. My eyes stayed on them as I crossed the space between us. I wasn't just watching anymore. I stopped at the edge of the bed, pulse steadying, eyes locked on the two of them. She looked up from where she straddled him, composed, poised, but something in her softened the moment our eyes met. Without a word, she eased off him and rose to her feet, giving me the space she knew I needed. I stepped forward. She met me halfway, her hands brushing my arms, then gliding gently down my sides. I leaned in and kissed her, not hesitant, not cautious. It was warm and certain, a connection already understood. She returned it fully, her body pressing softly into mine. Then, together, we turned to face him. He was still seated at the edge of the bed, chest rising visibly, eyes wide, following every motion, barely breathing. We lowered ourselves in front of him. I took one side, she took the other. Our fingers grazed once before we fell into rhythm, alternating, syncing naturally, moving together without words. My lips traced along his skin with calm intention, while hers moved in a measured pattern. When I paused, she leaned in, and when she shifted back, I took her place again. His muscles tensed, his legs braced. One hand gripped the blanket, the other clenched by his side. His whole body was alive under our attention, and still we moved as one, fluid, practiced, instinctive. Eventually, she rose and extended her hand. I took it and she helped me upright. She began to undress me, one strap at a time. Each piece fell with careful ease. There was no rush in her movements, only quiet focus. When I stood fully revealed, she leaned in and kissed me again. Slower this time, deeper, like she was saying something that didn't need to be spoken. I took a slow, deliberate step back, retreating toward the bed, feeling the weight of her gaze press into me. My every movement seemed to pull her eyes closer, as if her attention was tethered to mine. When I finally reached the edge, I eased myself down, the mattress cradling me, my heartbeat calm yet alive with a sense of anticipation. She remained standing above me, her eyes locking with mine, unwavering, intense. Couldn't keep just watching, huh? I let the words slip from my lips, my smile faint, almost teasing, my voice a mere breath that barely disturbed the silence. Her lips curled slightly, a knowing glint flickering in her eyes. I just wanted a better view. The words were soft, but they held a deeper promise, one that lingered in the space between us. Then, with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly, she moved. Her presence was all-consuming as she glided between my legs, each motion measured and fluid. She lowered herself with a deliberate slowness, her every movement imbued with intention, as if she was savoring the very moment. Her mouth found me gently at first, but it was a touch that sent waves of heat through me, each brush of her lips steady, sure, and knowing. As her rhythm grew, deepening in its pulse, I felt my head fall back into the pillows. The sensation beneath my skin spread like a slow-burning fire, each subtle shift she made pulling me deeper into the experience. It wasn't rushed nor hesitant. It was precise, her every move, each breath, a reflection of intent. I reached out, my fingers grasping the edge of the sheets, grounding myself in the ebbing tide of pleasure that flowed steadily, building beneath the surface of my skin. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw him. He moved toward the bed with purpose, his steps steady and deliberate, as if each was part of a carefully choreographed dance. His hands settled gently at her waist, fingers pressing lightly before they began to move in unison with her. The rhythm between them slowly formed, a pulse that seemed to flow through the very air around us. At first, it was barely noticeable, like the faintest whisper of a breeze, but it grew, gained definition with each passing moment. I could feel it then, the subtle tension as their movements intertwined, a steady back and forth that rippled through the space between us. Her body responded to him, every shift in her position mirrored in the way she moved against me. It was as if her rhythm was adapting, syncing perfectly with his. Her pace quickening, her focus sharpening as the connection deepened. The air between us thickened, charged. Her breath, warm and steady, brushed against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. The way her body aligned with his felt impossibly intimate, the connection between them transferring through her and into me. It was a wave, flowing relentlessly, each pulse building upon the last, steady and continuous, yet growing in intensity. The pressure inside me began to rise, not with a slow build-up, but with a quiet, undeniable momentum, like a force of nature that couldn't be contained. My legs instinctively pulled closer, my fingers dug into the sheets, seeking something to ground myself as the sensation took hold. It surged, fast, sharp, and utterly overwhelming. My body trembled beneath her, and I felt my breath escape in a rush, the release so complete, so sudden, that I could hardly hold on to myself. Every nerve seemed to hum with the aftershocks of it. She stayed with me, her presence unwavering through every pulse, every second of it. She didn't pull away, didn't retreat. She remained anchored, her touch never faltering. Only once the tremors began to subside did she lift her head, her eyes meeting mine with a silent understanding. Behind her I could hear his breathing, ragged now, uneven. His movements had shifted, lost some of their precision, replaced by an urgency that spoke of his own nearing release. He leaned forward then, his forehead pressing gently against her shoulder, the weight of his body slowing, coming to a quiet stillness as he settled beside her. She moved away, slowly, gracefully, like the calm after a storm. He shifted then, falling beside me with a quiet exhale. His body still, save for the uneven rhythm of his breath. His fingers found mine, and I squeezed them gently, offering a silent comfort. His lips brushed against mine, a kiss that was tender, lingering in a way that left an imprint on me, soft but persistent. I smiled, the corners of my mouth still trembling from the waves that had washed over me. Through a breath still caught in my chest, I whispered, "Happy birthday." The words hung in the air for a moment, and then, in the quiet that followed, I let myself feel the weight of everything that had passed between us. "If this was your gift, how would you react?" I asked, my voice a playful tease. "Would you embrace it, or would you turn it down? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. Before you leave, please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching. See you soon.